It's really great to see you all here. I can't see half of you, but I'll pretend that I can see the back rows. I hope you can see me, right? Can you? Good. Just, side check for free. We include that with the package of the event. All right, are you as angry as Craig is now with everything horrible happening out there? I'm going to take you through the next stages of grief. No, hopefully by the end of it, we'll have some solutions inside as well. And hopefully Greg will love this too. There's a lot of things that you can improve in terms of your user experience. You've seen some of them. There's a lot of things you can improve specifically in your checkout experience. If there's nothing else that you remember, and hopefully you'll remember a couple of things, and as Scott pointed out, we'll send you the slides just in case. But if you remember nothing else, the first thing you need to improve about your checkout experience is your mindset. You need to remember that the devices that your users are mainly coming to you with, they're like this thing. Can you see it at the back, like you saw me? What's, anybody, what's special about this? Like, what stands out? Right? It's about all the functionality that a mobile phone really has. You need to have two buttons. One of them, I want. One of them, take my money. That's how it should work. You think about that right conceptually, you can solve it technically. What I will present to you today is a couple of the technical solutions that should work. And we're very confident in them. That's why we're talking to you about them today. And that's, in fact, why I'm really hoping to be able to catch some of you in person afterwards as well and discuss them in detail. But this is about giving you an idea of what it's possible to achieve, and then maybe an idea of also exactly how to do it. I spend most of my time talking to people en masse, or one-to-one, or in my sleep, about the web. The web is amazing. I am in love with the web. Just to figure out if I'm completely alone here, who here loves the web? All right, you're not asleep. That's good. That's a test. The web is amazing. It is about the biggest project that humanity has built together. 5 billion devices connected. You saw the numbers. By 2020, there will be 5 billion mobile devices alone, not to mention everything else. Smartwatches, anybody? Fridges? Way more just went public in Phoenix, and God bless those guys who are getting into those self-driving cars. They'll be safer than the rest of us for the rest of their lives. The web is coming at us from all sorts of places, across all sorts of surfaces. It is the single biggest project that we are all participating in together. We're building it together. Every time you go to your social network, post some stuff online, you're building the web. It is, well, let me ask you this question. And if you're not tired of, and you told Scott before that you love, some of you at least, audience participation, well, here's some. How many of you have both a native app presence and a mobile web presence for your business? Raise one hand. Few hands, all right, fair enough. So some of you are trying to milk both cows. Don't put them down. Raise your second hand if your web is bringing you more traffic. A few hands, all right, that's normal. And some of you are just, not engaging enough here. I'll try to see if we can fix that. Well, what about this? Is this familiar? All those people coming to your web experience, and I think we've seen some of the reasons why, they don't seem to be bringing you any money. And at some point what happens is, and I hear this now and again, and I get really, really sad, not as angry, mainly sad, when I hear this, that, well, you kind of, web, we have it, we've had it for a while, it's really not working for us, not making any money that we're going to invest into this experience and that experience, and the best thing ever is try to get people off our website who we already acquired and spend money on organic traffic, paid traffic to get to the website. Now we're going to get them off the website into some other experience, and take our chances with that. Because why? It's not bringing us any money. We're not going to try to fix it. We're just going to take them somewhere else, which probably isn't going to bring us any money either anyway, because we haven't fixed the conceptual approach that we have to taking people's money. Why? One person knows the meme, thank you. How does this work? There are two things about mobiles. One is that it's not just the device, it's not just the size, it's also the fact that you use them under different circumstances. And I'm not going to focus on that too much today, but that's something to remember. It's not just the device size or its properties, it's also where the user is using it. On the go, under poor networking conditions, with no network potentially. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's something maybe some of the other speakers will cover a little bit on. You can find a lot of information about it online anyway. And if not, I'll just give a plug for Progressive Web Apps here, read up on it. But the other thing about the device, as I told you, It's like this, and it has 2 buttons, and you cannot really write War and Peace on it. And that's what most of us are asking our users to do every time we want them to interact with us. Every time, well, imagine, fair enough, I mean, there was a great example before about the door that wouldn't let people in. Imagine after you scared half of your customers away from your physical shop because your doors don't fit, after you made them empty their trolley just as they go to the cash register, imagine at the cash register, before they pay you, you have to make them fill out a 7-page long questionnaire to figure out like as much as you'd like to know about them before they buy a can of Coke. It's probably not going to work. And most of you kind of realize that and don't actually do that in your physical stores. Why do we do this online is beyond me, but we can stop. But let me convey some more of my emotions to you. Mainly sadness here, but this guy, I love this guy, is like me looking at your websites. It's like your users trying to use your websites, but more importantly, it's also like you at the end of the day saying, where's all my money? And where's my quarterly bonus? And where's all the revenue gone? People don't want to do additional steps to get a personalized experience. Don't get me wrong, people love personalized experiences, and I highly encourage you, and I will show you how to create a personalized experience seamlessly and in an easy manner without creating friction. But people don't want to pay for that personalized experience with extra steps. That's not all. We saw a number. I have a bigger number. It's bigger than 55 because it's a different research. But you get the picture. Most research shows that people drop out during conversion if it's inconvenient. And I'm surprised that we need research for that because that seems to be kind of obvious. Even that is not all. And somehow, amazingly, you've seen a similar statistic. It's just shaped slightly differently, but basically what this says is conversions on mobile suck. This is the end result of all the amazing work that we've done over the past 20 years on the mobile web and on the web in general. It doesn't have to be this way. I told you this before, and I have good news for everyone. We have, first of all, remember, a conceptual solution to simplifying the checkout process, to putting yourself in your user's shoes and trying to figure out how you're going to get them from never having heard of your product or service before to actually having paid for it and left satisfied and coming back and recommending it to all their friends in a couple of minutes rather than 3 months, which is never going to happen. There are 2 specific things that we'll cover now. Doing the whole thing, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. So this is what I'm going to tell you. We're going to talk about creating accounts and the Tap Signup API and the payment request API. We're talking about them together because they're fundamentally related to the process of personalizing a user's experience and taking them all the way through to the purchasing funnel in the most seamless way possible by leveraging the information that platform providers, such as browsers, already have about your users, so you don't have to get it again. Let's get it. Let's dive right in. Let's talk about Tap Signup. We've been working on improving identity on the web and beyond for a while now, and we've been gradually introducing an increasing number of improved solutions in this space for a while. This is something we've launched just recently. It's become publicly available literally a couple of weeks ago, and we announced it at the Chrome Developer Summit in late October. Fundamentally, what it does, if you think about it, it looks if your browser already knows who you are, and if we can pass that information straight to the website that you're visiting without you taking any extra steps. It works across all browsers. It's not dependent on the platform. It works on desktop and on mobile. And for users within the Google ecosystem, it has the extra benefit that the vast majority of the time, that information is already there and we already have it, and we can give it to you in a nice and easy way. You see, this is a live example. When the user lands on the home page, they're able to get into their account on your website, which they didn't have before and which they've never seen in their life before, in one tap. That's not all. Returning users who don't want to try to remember what their password was, who don't want to try to remember if they use Twitter or Facebook or something else to sign up to your website, you can bring them right back in. You have full control of this with both of these APIs, and that's another important thing to remember. At all stages, you have full control when and how and for whom do you trigger them. So it's not like we're dictating to you what to do and how to change your flow. We're encouraging you to think about this and make the right decisions using the right technology. So coming back to this, you can help them sign in automatically. You can allow them to choose between accounts if they seem to be using multiple accounts, either because it's a choice between personal and corporate or because there are multiple users on the same device. You can allow them to sign in with whatever provider or even with a combination of email and password, although I personally would encourage you to start moving away from that as much as you can, because you really don't want to be handling that stuff. And you don't want people to create more of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 passwords. We have enough of them as it is already. We need to get rid of them. And this technology brings real results. WeGo has been able to increase the number of signups and accounts created on their website 10 times, comparing to the time when they didn't use any of the sections of the API at all, through using just the part of it that allows people to come back, to now using the part that allows people to create an account in that seamless manner that I showed you 10 times. It's 10 times for about half an hour of coding. The implementation of this API will probably take you slightly longer than half an hour, because you'll spend the first week angry whilst looking at the actual process that you have right now, and a couple of days brainstorming how do you want to conceptually change it, and then literally 30 minutes implementing the solution. It is that easy. Aliexpress is another example of getting great results. And we see business results here. They saw a conversions uptick. And this is clear, because if you allow people to come back seamlessly into a personalized state where their order history is, where their browsing history is, they're much more likely to get to the end, which you care about. And it doesn't have to be just shops. It doesn't have to be travel. Whatever line of business you're in, if you do have some sort of an experience that hinges on personalization, and I believe most of you do, and some of you that don't, wonder why, because you can always provide a better experience, and you can always strive to satisfy your particular user in a better way if you know just that little bit of extra more about them, but just enough, not too much, right? In order not to annoy them with the additional 7-page long requests. You can get those results no matter what you do. As we pointed out, you'll get access to this DEX afterwards, so don't worry too much about remembering this now. Just remember that the links to the documentation and the examples and a host more presentations like mine, going deeper into the technical detail or the business detail with more examples of businesses succeeding, galore. You can spend, well, part of that week that you'll spend angry, you can spend reading and going through the videos. Or you can dump this on your development teams and then have them maybe write into me with their questions. Remember, the web is better than ever. And I just told you one way in which you're helping make that statement true. There is still this problem, though. It's unbelievable. I mean, it was bad enough what Craig showed you with the airline website, where he had to go through some crazy stuff just to get to Madeira, and he never went in the end. We do this everywhere. It's not just airlines. Very, very few companies actually think in detail about what's actually required about what sort of information do they actually need to complete the transaction. There might be lots of information you want to get from your customer for future purposes. Do you actually need it at the time of checkout? Do you want to throw that friction into the most critical point of your interaction with your users? It's a good question to ask yourselves. And if you think the answer is no, if you think it's just a few pieces of critical information that we need and maybe a few optional things plus some functionality that we need to give the users, again, there is a technical solution for this. We mentioned this before. I don't have to belabor this point, luckily enough. I'll just maybe let you dwell on this for a second. This was the projection at the beginning of this year. We'll see what the numbers actually are when we get the end results in. But I'm pretty sure they're going to be even above this. But remember also the fact that we mentioned that mobile conversions are a third of what they should be. imagine how much money is just being lost. Imagine how much money you're not making just because your checkout process sucks. Hopefully for some of you it doesn't, but there's definitely room for improvement. In order to make the paying experience, I mean, how many of you believe that giving other people your money is pleasant? Not that many hands. You might be tired, or you might be actually agreeing with me. It's a painful psychological moment for anybody. So making it technologically challenging is doubly strange. So we need a process that makes it feel natural and pleasant to part with your hard-earned cash. And we can do it. Payment Request API, as I mentioned before, leverages the same idea as the Credentials API. It looks for information already present in the browser. And again, I remind you, this doesn't have to be Chrome specifically. We have a few extra perks, let's say, that we've implemented on our side, but generally speaking, this works across many browsers. This works in Edge, this works in Samsung Internet, even surprisingly, but luckily, Safari started working on implementing support for it, and we're really looking forward to see what it's going to look like on their end. Wherever your users are, whatever browser they like using, whatever device they like coming to your website from, they probably have data there that you can just get for free without having to ask them. A couple of things to remember about it, and especially if you're more focused on your checkout process and you're getting into more details, or you want to talk about this to your product teams. This is not some new processor. This is not some new wallet. It is a web API. It gets you exactly the same information as you would get from your users through a form on your website. So nothing changes. Nothing needs to change in your acquiring bank relationships. Nothing needs to change in your processing. You get the same data that you would from your users without having to force them through this excruciating pain of trying to hit those small, especially thank you for showing the example of the wrong keyboard. That's the best one. So you can avoid all that. You get all this information with 2 taps from your user. Remember, that's all they can do on this device anyway. It's seamless for them. It will feel natural, and it will feel unique and consistent across all the websites they visit. Just like it would be strange to be changing the wallet that you take with you every time you walk into a different shop. It feels kind of strange that your payment experience needs to differ vastly depending on what you're interacting with. This brings a bit more consistency to the user experience, both within the same browser, but also across many browsers. Again, removing friction and increasing trust in the security of the checkout process. I know that in a lot of EMEA countries, not just EMEA, but EMEA in particular, there's a lot of reluctance in our user base in actually using online transactions, in giving their card details, in using that as a form of payment. We're very aware of that. This is one small way, but hopefully significant, to actually help solve that problem by increasing trust in online transactions. It works across all platforms. Chrome on Android, Chrome on desktop, Chrome on iOS. Unlocks the potential to begin the conversation with your user on one device, continue seamlessly on another one, and actually get to where you care about, to the final point where they actually give you your money, or rather their money, which then becomes yours. If some of you have already heard about AMP, in fact, let me ask you just for my purposes of research here, this is some really badly designed user experience research. Who's heard about AMP? Great, awesome, amazing. I'll put this in my report as 99%. If you know what AMP is, great. If you haven't, it's accelerated mobile pages, Google it, plenty of great information there. But basically, if you're already using that as a solution for your web, or if you're considering it, this might be just the argument that pulls you over the brink, because payments, the payment request API works with AMP pages out of the box. It's built in, right? That support is right there. So you can build a complete e-commerce experience using AMP all the way from landing to checkout. That will take literally seconds for your users. Works across many browsers. I've mentioned that already. And these are just a few examples that you can go and check out now or in the break to see what it actually looks like in real life. Probably the simplest one, and it's going to be, well, hopefully it's night right now in the States, so it's not going to down their server. But the easiest one to take a look at, because it won't involve you filling your basket or anything, is probably the Washington Post, where you would just, in a couple of steps, you'll get to the subscription page, and you'll see what this actually looks like. We're also working not just with individual partners like yourselves, but also with representatives of the industry, the CMS providers, platform creators, so that for many of you who use those solutions, these are built right in. And if you are using a solution, a CMS or an e-commerce platform that doesn't yet support it, let us know, and we'll talk to them together with you and make sure that it's built in. We're also aware that cards are not the only way, by far not the only way that people use to pay for stuff on the web. So we already implemented support and worked together with these early partners to make sure that these apps are supported, and we're working on making even more of them supported by default. And more importantly than that even, because there's still additional friction involved in using wallets that you need to download, we're banking really hard and working really close with PayPal to build a specification that is common to all web-based wallets to enable them to be accessible through this API as well. So whatever forms of payment, whatever degree of confidence your users have in this or that or the other, all of it, part of it is already accessible through this UI. Most of it will become accessible in the very near future. And this is exactly the right moment for you to start thinking about implementing this and starting to figure out how this fits into your existing flow, or how this can transform your flow into something that will bring your checkout times down from, well, let me give you an example before I get to here. From something like 2 to 5 minutes, which we see across a whole bunch of websites, to something under 30 seconds, which is the benchmark that Jeff Bezos from Amazon likes to talk about. Where would you start? There's a couple of very obvious use cases where you could begin. One of them just popped up on the screen a second ago. If a significant number of your users only check out with one product, that's a great place to begin. It's a great place to conduct a test and see how well this works for them, because they're really banking on a fast interaction, and this will increase their speed several-fold. Another example is people that new visitors to your website, about whom you have no information. This API allows you to get everything you need for that initial transaction without putting them through any sort of friction. You can learn about, again, like before, there's a couple of useful links here that will take you to the documentation, and you can dive in, figure out how this works. I know for many cases you will have to interact with your payment gateway. In different countries it works slightly differently. We're very eager to hear from you, and I'll give you a way to get in touch with us. That's the first link over here. If these solutions look interesting for you, but you're unsure how they will work for your business, or you're unsure about the specific setup that you have, either for your identity, because you in fact might be using a third-party provider, or for your payments flow, because you might be using a third-party provider for that as well, let us know, and we'll try to figure this out with you. We're trying to help everybody. We're trying to fix this for all of you, for ourselves, but most importantly for our users. Don't forget to check out the developers.google.com/web website, where you find not just the documentation for developers. Don't let the name trick you. You'll find plenty of use cases. You'll find plenty of case studies with real business results that will help you understand how this works. This and many other web technologies work for your business and for your vertical. I guess with that, that's it. And I did manage to end a little bit early on time. So if you have any questions right now, I'd love to be able to take them. Thank you.